I've been seeing a lot more discussion on the problems with the Void Thunder set and Thundering Mephis, and it seems to be a popular topic since we're all going to get Xiangli Yao, so everyone wants to know how we should build him and how what echo skill he has will affect how he plays and how much damage he'll do. So in this video, I want to go over some things you might want to consider when choosing what echo skill to give him and what set to put him on. And at the end, I will let you know what I'm planning to do since I do have a plan for him once he releases. Let's start off by talking about the Thundering Mephis Echo first. On paper, this is the best in slot echo for him. It gives electro damage bonus, liberation damage bonus, and the echo skill itself does a good amount of damage. So now you've heard the good news, because the rest is bad. To get the electro and liberation damage bonuses, you need to do his final hit of his combo. The full Thundering Mephis combo is the longest echo attack chain in the game that I'm aware of. If there are multiple enemies, there's no way to target a specific enemy and he'll teleport all around the arena randomly.
Miss.
If you have to dodge an attack during his very long combo, you have to decide on whether you want to get hit or dodge out of his echo skill and lose out on getting the buffs. There are a lot more issues I could point out with Thundering, but I doubt I'd be able to describe them well enough for you to understand why they're problems, so we're just going to leave it at that. If I was going to fix Thundering, I would do two things. First, I would make his teleporting more targeted towards the enemies that are in front of you, so you can at least try to aim it. And second, if you're halfway through an attack chain and you need to dodge out of an attack, Thundering Mephis could appear as a summon after a perfect dodge and perform his final strike, allowing you to still perform a skillful move such as a dodge, while still getting the bonus from your echo. That's how I would fix him, and if Kuro did something like this, I think he would be a lot more enjoyable to play with. A bonus thing that I would change is instead of needing to press the button for each attack, you could just hold down the button instead and it would continue his attack combo. So let's take a look at our second option on Void Thunder, Tempest Mephis. What Tempest lacks in damage value for Xiangli Yao, he makes up for it with how fast and less intrusive his skill is. You get your electro damage bonus, which is valuable, but you get heavy attack bonus instead of getting liberation, which is unfortunately pretty garbage. So theoretically, your DPS is lower, but if you look at it in terms of having team buffs that might be falling off while you're doing Thundering's attack chain, and you might not even get through his attack chain in order to get the buffs if you need to dodge an attack, because of this, Tempest could likely be DPS neutral in a combat scenario. Having said that, I'm sure people who infuse their gameplay with Adderall will get more DPS out of Thundering, but for the average player, Tempest is probably the better choice. It's 2 hits, it can be swap cancelled, and it allows you to get right back into the fight without taking up much field time. So if you want to run Void Thunder and you want to know what echo is better, I would strongly recommend Tempest. It's fast, reliable, easy to use, and it's a lot more predictable with who it's going to hit and where you'll end up position-wise after it's finished. However, Void Thunder is not the only echo set that might be good on Xiangli Yao. Lingering Tunes is a typically more all-rounder set that's kinda good on every DPS without being BIS. But Xiangli Yao has a few things that make this choice a little bit better. He has a lot of field time, so the 5-piece bonus will be fully active for a lot of his DPS window, and the Mech Abomination Echo does electro damage, which means any electro damage bonus that you get from a weapon, buff, Tower of Adversity floor, or 3-cost echoes will not only increase Xiangli Yao's damage, but also increase the damage of Mech. Since their elements match, they are a lot more suited to each other than non-electro units. Mech unfortunately doesn't give electro damage bonus or liberation, but instead it increases the character's attack by 12% for 15 seconds. Lingering Tunes also increases your outro skill damage, which not only affects Mech, but main DPS characters typically have outros that are damage focused instead of giving buffs to the next teammate. So this also suits him pretty well. Take this with a grain of salt though. Until we can get our hands on him to test on this set, we can assume that this works, but with his outro hitting from off field, there might be some bugs or limitations that make this not work. It should work though. The problem that I can see with Lingering Tunes, the set might struggle to compete in terms of being future-proof, or if you ever want to take the echoes off Xiangli Yao and put them onto another Electro DPS like Calcharo, you would have been better having a Void Thunder set instead of having a Lingering Tunes set. You could get an echo set for both characters, that's likely what I'll try to do eventually, but if you want to try and be resource efficient, Void Thunder might be the better pick going into the future. However, the problem with Void Thunder is you need to play in a certain way in order to get the full benefit from the set. Now, when I read Void gives 15% electro damage bonus from using a heavy attack or a skill stacking up to 2 times, I imagine that you would be able to get both stacks if you just use 2 skills or 2 heavy attacks. So you can imagine my surprise to find out it doesn't work like that at all. So I'm going to tell you exactly how it works and put a description on screen. You must perform a resonance skill and a heavy attack to get both stacks. You will only ever get 1 stack from performing 2 skills, and you will get 1 stack from performing 2 heavy attacks, which means you must do both in order to get both stacks. Xiangli Yao cannot perform heavy attacks during his liberation, so if you want both stacks, you must perform a heavy attack before casting his liberation. The 5-piece bonus in this echo set is defined in a really shit way, which makes you think it works one way when it doesn't work that way at all. And if you run Void Thunder on Xiangli Yao, you need to remember to play him in a certain way in order to get the full benefit out of the set. Lingering Tunes might not do as much damage. I've seen people saying the difference in DPS is negligible, but until we get our hands on him, it's all just data that is yet to be applied in a scenario. But even if it doesn't do as much damage, unless you remember to use a heavy attack for that 15% extra electro damage bonus, Lingering Tunes might start to naturally pull ahead in terms of DPS for the average player. Void Thunder has been getting a lot of shit recently because of everything that we just talked about. So having talked about it, I also want to mention 2 minor issues that I have with some other sets. And before I mention them, this is something that doesn't matter at all unless you're either currently or you would like to solo some of the content in the game. Sierra Gale and Celestial Light both proc their 5-piece bonus from an intro skill. This really isn't much of a problem for most people, but anyone who likes to do either Tower of Adversity or the hologram solo, this 5-piece bonus is completely useless. It's similar to Jian's weapon. Half of its passive is locked behind needing to perform an intro skill. So whenever I solo stuff with Jian on 5-piece Sierra Gale, I never get the 30% aero damage bonus from the set, and if I equip his weapon as well, he will only ever get half of its passive, making him feel way weaker when compared to other characters. Now, I'm not going to mention Moonlit since it's a pure support set, so the passive being for supporting the incoming character is kind of a given. So with that out of the way, if you want to know what my plans are for Xiangli Yao's echoes, I think at the beginning I'm going to half and half between Void Thunder and Lingering Tunes and decide if I like Thundering, Mech, or Tempest more. That will be what makes my decision on what set I want to put him on, is which echo I prefer to use. I haven't used Mech before, so I want to get a feel for him, and after that, if I prefer using him over Thundering or Tempest, it won't matter if it deals less damage. I'm going to put him on Lingering Tunes. Otherwise, I'll stick with Void Thunder, which I already have a Thundering Mephis leveled, but if I don't like having to do the full combo, I'll likely build and switch to Tempest. I never got good echoes for my Calcharo since I realized pretty early that I didn't really vibe with him, so further investment would have felt wasted. But I do plan to use his echoes to get a feel for Xiangli Yao, and then I plan to build him from there. One thing I want to make sure to include is Mech is a summon echo, but it isn't the same as the Sentinel. Jue's summon is instant and doesn't interrupt whatever your character is doing. Mech does though, so you can't just use Mech when it's off cooldown if you don't want to interrupt your current action, whether that's finishing your skill animation, doing a basic attack combo, or you're within your liberation combo. This is not comparing to Thundering though. Thundering and Tempest are way more intrusive to your rotation, but comparing it to a lot of other summon echoes, it unfortunately isn't as fluent. But that's all I wanted to talk about for this video, so I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can let me know with the like button or by leaving a comment. If you would like to see more content in future, you can subscribe to the channel. I was halfway through making a video on why I didn't really enjoy Tower of Adversity, but I kind of gave up on that since I don't think I could explain myself well enough for people to understand what my problem is. So I've canned that video and I'll just keep it to myself. Having said that, I hope to see you in the next video, and I'll catch you later.